Colleen Reiser. She's the owner of Be Well Bflo. She's a certified health and wellness coach. So I'm super excited to be here with you, Colleen, to have this conversation, very important conversation.
Absolutely.
With the pandemic and all these different stressors that people are going through,
Right.
many have experienced so much loss and death because of the pandemic, because of COVID. So stress is pretty high. One of the first things I want to know is about your journey. So what made you decide to become a health and wellness coach?
So I started Be Well Bflo as a blog, and I was going through health and wellness coach training at IIN. And I started it off more as like just tips and tricks, and my journey, I have a bunch of autoimmunes and sensitivities to food, and so that's really what kind of drove me there. Not so much the health and wellness coaching aspect.
Got it.
So it was more for my own personal gain. Once I got into the swing of it, I was like, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah.
So Be Well Bflo became an official small business in April 2021. So,
Nice. Oh,
yeah.
fairly
So it's very
recent.
recent.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
And some of the services I provide at Be Well Bflo is one-to-one health coaching. I offer 3 different kind of levels of it. So as needed, a 3-month program or a 6-month program. I also have a program called Manage Your Stress, Manage Your Health, and I have monthly workshops that change throughout the year. So.
Amazing. So people have so many different options, right, to choose from when it comes to services that you provide. So I wanted to hone in a little bit more on the stress element, and then we'll get into the services and how you can help folks
Sure.
with some of the challenges that they may be facing. It may not all be stress. Some may want to live a healthier lifestyle when it comes to the way they eat or
Right.
better managing their time, whatever it might be.
Right.
But for the sake of today's conversation, I really wanted to talk about stress, because a lot of my friends, family, folks I talk to,
Yep.
that's one of the toughest things to tackle and to figure out how to manage. And for me personally, and I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable here, is that, growing up and most of my life, I've been a people pleaser. And people pleasers tend to say yes to everything. We tend to overcommit ourselves.
Absolutely.
So we're super stressed, super high strung a lot of times. Over the years, I've learned to say no. I've practiced my no muscle. But aside from that, what are some tips that you can share with someone like me or someone who may be struggling with other stressors in life that they either intentionally or unintentionally get themselves into?
Yep.
What are some tips you can share on how to manage that?
So I just need to say I also am a people pleaser, very much so that I will spread myself totally thin until I kind of break down a little.
Yes.
So to avoid that, I would recommend, and this is really difficult to do, but slowing down. And I know it's very difficult to do.
Hard.
But some ways you can do that are just by creating healthy routines and healthy patterns, but not going at it all at once. So creating little routine, and I very much,
Bite-sized. Yes.
I'm very much the person who goes from like 0 to 100.
Yes.
So I can totally
Yes.
relate. And
Yes.
this has taken, it won't happen overnight. It's taken me like, oh God, I don't know.
It takes time.
Yeah, like years.
I still
years.
struggle with it to this day. I've come a long way, but like you said, going from 0 to 100 and those bite size,
Yes.
breaking it down in bite size pieces, because honestly, if I allow myself to,
Right.
I will be at my computer literally from 5 a.m. until 9 p.m., right? Because I'm in it, I'm like, oh, I have to get this done. But realistically, you'll never get everything
Yes.
done.
Yes.
So that in itself
Yeah.
is just creating stress, even if you're not necessarily saying no to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So really slowing yourself down and scheduling in like those breaks, or scheduling in, even if you don't feel like you can take a break, scheduling in 5 seconds to just do a couple deep breaths, or to just go outside and take a walk and do things that are more grounding instead of in today's world we live in a very computer, internet, comparing
We're
ourselves
on all the time.
Yes, we're looking at productivity of other people and our productivity, and sometimes relaxing and taking a break is productive.
Absolutely.
So switching your mindset is also something that helps with stress and kind of revamping your priorities sometimes too. But again, it doesn't happen overnight.
It sure doesn't. Really, it's a muscle that has to be exercised, and I realize that because as I've gotten better with saying no, I feel so guilty still, right?
Yes.
I feel extremely guilty, and that stresses me out,
Absolutely.
right? Because I'm not used to it.
Yes.
But it's a must.
Yes.
It's so important to do.
I always tell people that I have a harder time relaxing than I do them being productive.
Yeah.
Relaxing for me is it's hard work.
Very odd.
Yes.
Yes, it is. I completely relate. It's odd.
Yes, it's super odd. And so watching Netflix or hanging out, I have some friends that are I could watch movies for hours, and I'll start a movie and 10 minutes into it I'm well, I have to go do something. Yeah. So for me, that is not a way that I can manage my stress. It's chilling out on the couch. So I have to try and incorporate things that work for me too.
Yes.
Which I think is also very important to individualize what you're doing for your stress. So even on social media, you might get all these tips and tricks and all that stuff, but it might not be what's best for you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up because a lot of times we think it may be cookie cutter, right?
Yes.
So and so did it. They're in a much better space. So let me replicate what they did.
Right.
Well, it may not work for you, but then sometimes you may need to go through trial and error, right?
Exactly.
Try it out, test it out.
Exactly.
Does it work? Does it not work? Okay, move on.
Right. Exactly.
Move on to something else, try something else because, one size does not fit all, like you said, which makes a lot of sense. So another question in relating to stress and in relation to really self-care and how we manage our time, how we manage ourselves.
Yeah.
2022 is right around the corner.
Yeah, crazy.
I am cautiously optimistic about this new year. And as you know, most people will be setting New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
I was reading an article on Forbes magazine, and they mentioned that a study was conducted that showed about 80% of people who set New Year's resolutions do not meet their goals, which is mind-boggling.
Yes.
I would have thought it would be around maybe 60% or so.
Yeah.
That's a really high number.
It is.
So what are some tips you can share with us to ensure that we're not overcommitting ourselves or spreading ourselves too thin or setting unrealistic goals for ourselves with this new year that's coming up?
So I actually read the same article and I saw the percent and I was oh my goodness.
Crazy.
It is crazy. And I think my number one tip for everyone, and just as you're starting something new, you want to go into it slowly. Like I said earlier, you want to go into it, you don't want to jump right into it. So if your goal is working out, I'm going to use that as an example because that's almost everyone's goal. Eat healthy and work out. Yeah. If you wake up on January 1st and you're yep, I'm going to go to the gym, and then you push yourself every single day to do that, even when you're not feeling like doing it, you're going to burn yourself out. And so that's where slowing down and kind of listening to your body is very, very helpful. I like to tell my clients that when they're making these routines or these healthy habits, that it also needs to be fluid. You can't be on a strict 7 o'clock I'm going to the gym, because that morning you might need to sleep until 7:30.
That's what I used to do.
Yeah.
That's what I used to do. I used to wonder why, I'd set this crazy schedule for myself. I'm going to work out 6 days a week, and I'm gonna do legs, arms, and whatever.
Yep.
But then, oddly enough, I would get sick.
Yes.
I would get a cold, or my body would just shut down.
Yep.
And there goes 2 weeks. I didn't work out, so now I'm not working out at all, right? And I used to wonder, why in the world does that happen each and every single time?
Yeah.
But come to think about it, based on what you're saying, I was just
you're burning your body out.
myself out.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So that is my number one piece of advice is
Yeah.
if you're planning on doing something, start slow and don't jump right into it, because I don't want to say don't jump right into it, but don't push yourself too much,
Yeah.
especially if you're not feeling it. So I like to run. That's what I like to do. But there's days, and I've had to learn this over time because I would push myself. There's days where if I wake up and I'm supposed to go for a run, but I don't feel like it, then that's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay, folks.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
As long as you get back to it, it's okay.
It's okay. And yes, as long as you get back to it. And I think that's a big thing people forget with like health and wellness. You can leave things for a little bit.
Yeah.
You can stop things for a little bit. You can maybe work on your sleep in the month of October, and then November work on something else and kind of forget about your sleep. But you can always go back to it, which is I think my favorite thing when working with my clients and stuff is when we make that realization, like, oh, I can move on to something new, or ooh, wait, I got to go back and work on that.
Wow. Very, very, very impactful. I mean, that's a lot to remember and think about in a good way, because as you're talking about all this, and I'm just reflecting on behaviors that I've had in the past, and why I had certain results or did not have certain results. So that's really, really great tips right there. So one question that I didn't even put out there to you, because I'm really curious about your clients, do they typically come to you for a specific area in their life, like say diet or working on their goals, or do you get a lot of people who holistically come to you for their entire selves, right?
So-
Physical, emotional.
So I'm going to be very honest. My number one client is always, I want to lose weight.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I want to lose weight. I want to eat better. I want to work out more. Those are the three main things. And it is interesting. But then we always break it down, because as soon as I hear that statement, and I mean this in the most loving way, I'm like, oh, there's more going on than that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So then it kind of breaks down to all different things, kind of like what we talked about, like looking at like your stress and how does that affect your everyday, and looking at your relationships, and maybe you're not in a great relationship and that's impacting you physically, or looking at like a financial situation, or kind of all those outside influences that you don't really think can affect how you're feeling or your diet or your exercise, but they do. It all goes together. So when I do my coaching, I focus more on those like I call them primary foods. That's what we learned at IIM. But the primary foods of looking at like your stress, your sleep, your home environment, your relationships, and then looking at the diet and exercise as secondary. Because if you're not in a good headspace, you're not going to be able to achieve the goals that you want with your diet and exercise.
It's deeper than just physical, right?
It really is. Yep.
Wow, that's deep. I need to sleep on that one. That's no, it's a lot of times we focus so much on the outward, right?
Yep,
Not
absolutely.
realizing that there's so much going on underneath that we need to tackle first.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you don't remember anything else in this vlog, that's one thing to remember.
Please remember that.
One thing to remember. So I saw they have a program, a 5-week program that's called Manage Your Stress, Manage Your Health.
Yeah.
What is that, and how do people sign up? How do people sign up for any of your services?
So this is a service that I'm very, very passionate about, because this is something I actually implemented in my own life. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but I used to be like a very anxious person, and I'd burn myself out. Yeah. And so I started kind of, as I went through the health coaching, I started implementing these little things here or there. And then I made it into a workshop when I became a small business. And then I decided 45 minutes is just not enough for this. So it's all individualized, the 5-week program, which is really, really nice.
That's great.
So we look at kind of in the beginning, we do a little interview, see what's going on. We kind of look at those primary foods that I mentioned and see like what could be affecting you.
Yeah.
And then each week there's like a new, I don't want to say assignment, but like a new skill that we kind of work on, or a new area that we focus on. So some of the things that we focus on, or I've done with other clients, is implementing a bedtime routine, creating a morning routine, implementing mindful eating habits, like sitting at a table and eating dinner instead of, eating on the go,
Right.
which we're all
Standing
guilty
in the
of.
kitchen.
Yes. Incorporating breathing techniques, meditation, journaling. But we kind of look at what they need as a whole for the 5-week program, and then slowly introduce what is best for them.
That's awesome. I love that it's tailored, because as we were saying earlier, it's not cookie cutter. So the fact that you're tailoring it, that's huge.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's making a huge impact on people's lives.
Yeah, that's something I'm very passionate about, because like you said, the cookie cutter, I mentioned earlier, I have all these different autoimmunes, and so what works for like a typical person doesn't work for me.
Right.
So I feel like having that individual, I don't know, I'm just really passionate about it.
I love it. Oh, great. So how can someone sign up for the program? How can someone sign up, reach out to you for a consulting session?
So I am all over social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook at Be Well Bflo, and it's BFLO. I have a website, www.bewellbflo.com. You can sign up for services there. You can see what's being offered for like the monthly workshops. You can take a look at all the programs. You can reach me by email. I also have a website through Vagaro where you can sign up and make appointments online.
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty easy, pretty accessible. You can always reach out. I'll answer within 24 hours, hopefully. Hopefully.
That's a great. So I'll make sure everything is in the caption, the website, how you can get in touch with Colleen. So all the information will be available and made available to you guys. Please make sure you follow her on her social media. Check her out, reach out, sign up for that 5-week program, especially with the new year coming around. But Colleen, this was amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.